9 Cabin Hill Road in Council District Number 15. She too has an item A appeal of zoning staff's denial of a short-term rental permit. Ms. Leonard is represented by Mr. Collins, her attorney for this matter, and he'll make the presentation on her behalf today. The zoning map shown here gives way to the aerial, give you a feel for the neighborhood where the subject property is located. Is there any opposition present for case number 157? Seeing none, Mr. Collins, you have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation to staff. Staff members, you have the packet on this case, which includes Mr. Collins' letter on behalf of his client's interests in this matter, and he'll make his presentation.
Good afternoon. I appreciate being in front of you all. Again, my name is Grover Collins, and I'm here on behalf of Ms. Sonda Leonard. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I have provided the appeal and documentation of that. I take it to assume that you all have read that, so I would be here and just to answer any questions you may have as it relates to Ms. Leonard's appeal. If you would like me to go through the high points, I'm happy to do that as well. Okay. Ms. Leonard was, as you've heard many times today, unaware of the regulations in the ever-changing Metro Code. She became aware of that on August 17th of 2016 while she was on her Facebook account, of all other things. And so she went down on August 23rd to make appeal or to make registration of that permit. She was promptly denied when she admitted to them that she had previously had listings going through. She then went to my office very promptly, where I told her to take everything down, cancel all her bookings, and let us handle that and appeal everything. To my knowledge, that's what she did. She would have been here today to testify before you all, but as I know at least one of you know, she did have a heart attack this weekend, and she could not be here. However, to my knowledge, she has complied with everything since and is just given the new regulations that came down in September 21st. She would humbly ask this board to instate her permit, approve that, and see a penalty deeming fit, as I would propose to this board, would be since the August 23rd denial. I think from today, that's been an appropriate penalty, and as such, she should be approved and given a permit for this short-term rental property.
Any questions?
Has she had all the inspections?
She hasn't had the fire marshal yet, because that's, once you get approval, that is when you schedule for the fire marshal to come out there, and they check for smoke alarms and that thing. So she has not done that, because that would be the final step before they actually give her the permit.
Any other questions? Do you have anything else to add?
Not unless there's a question of the board.
Okay, thank you. We're going to close the public hearing. Okay. Another short-term rental denied and an appeal of our 1-year suspension.
Yeah. Well, to the applicant's credit, they did stop renting as soon as they realized they weren't supposed to, and that was on August 23rd.
And according to her lawyer, she did not know about this statute until she saw something on Facebook, and then immediately stopped after that. And do we have any in opposition to this right now? No? Okay. So no opposition. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Well, you know, after I guess the last case, you know, we really got to think through what is, you know, for these. I mean, it's, you know, pretty much pushing a 3-month cycle, but also evidence that, you know, this person did the right thing.
And there's no opposition here, and basically we will decide a punishment less than a year if that's fitting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fitting. I think it's very similar to the first case that we heard.
So what do you think as far as the motion would be? John Michael, what's the date that you have that this was officially rejected?
Showing the application date is August the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you where I am on it, where I'm thinking, just so if it helps us move forward, because I know we got a long meeting, and, you know, it seemed like the 3 months on the first case was fair, in part because it was served. Had the person come to us, it's in the previous case, you know, and made that claim, we might have not had as long a punishment. So the second case, you know, was, you know, well, may have some revenue consequences, but really has a lesser punishment than 90 days. And this doesn't seem as I know they're all independent, but again, what I'm looking for is some, and we may not get every one of them right, but I'm looking for some movement toward a method that ultimately will kind of, knowing there are exceptions, but ultimately kind of lumping things into
I think we'll get them right because we look at each individual case and the facts and make a motion based on that.
well, and I'm not, and not being critical of the decision or discussion before, but I'm just saying at some point you just kind of know, well, this is kind of where we go. It's a generic case, but you know, I do have in my mind, and maybe it's just there, it's kind of 3 months, but it seems a little skew from the case before us. So I'm comfortable, and which is why you know, I'm not jumping up and down to make a motion, but I'm kind of comfortable with something, you know, 60 days, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't.
I'll make a motion that we, considering the zoning administrator short-term denial, that we amend that to less than a year and make it 60 days starting at August 23rd, based on the fact that there's no opposition here and they stopped renting immediately when they heard that they were in violation.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. And please tell your client to get well soon. Next case, John Michael.
Next case is 2016-159 for Joyce Sayers, the appellant and co-owner of the property located at 5469 Village Way. Again, an item A appeal challenging the zoning staff's denial of a short-term rental based on prior operation without the legally required permit. Zoning map gives you a simple overview of the property in question here, and then the aerial shows a little bit closer on the street. Is there any opposition present for case number 2016-159, the short-term rental case on 5469 Village Way? Seeing none, Ms. Sayers, you will have 10 minutes to make your desired presentation to the board. I will.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be before you today. My name is, is Joy Sayers. It's my husband, Rich Sayers. We've been operating our Airbnb for a number of months, and during tax time, we asked our tax gentleman if there was anything that we needed to do. We knew about licensing, which we didn't. What we did not hear was the word permit until we went to a homeowners association meeting on September the 23rd, just passed, and the day after, we found out where to go to get a permit to run the Airbnb. My husband and I are, law-abiding citizens. He's 24 years in the Air Force, and I'm a deacon at our church, and we do our very best to do what's right, and apologizing that we didn't know about the Airbnb. And having just sat here listening today, I'm thinking of writing to Airbnb and saying, right on the site, a permit is required to operate a short-term rental in this city. And I think it's going to help and hopefully save time and clear it up. But during the time that we have been operating, it's just been so rewarding. The people are coming from around the world. We're the first people that they may see having their first visit in the United States and Nashville. It's just not only financially assisting, which isn't even the point here, it's kind of an ambassadorship, and we enjoy love doing it.
And do you live in this home?
Yes, sir. Yeah. That's the other thing we were thinking. It's crucial that people, I think, actually live there, and that creates more respect for the property and the neighborhood. It's different than, you hear some sadder stories. At the Homeowners Association, we heard some different stories from around the city, and that's not our case. Our neighbors are okay with it. We've spoken to them, and they're knowledgeable of our operation. As soon as we were denied our permit, we put the sign up. We posted our sign right up on our front yard, and a lot of people were discussing, why the sign is there. So more people are aware.
Did you rent it after the 9/23?
No, we blocked the time. We were told not to do any rentals, so we blocked that calendar for a number of months because we weren't sure what was going to happen. So it's all blocked.
Anything else to add?
I have pages here, but I'm trying to keep it brief.
Okay. So you went to your homeowners association, and that's when you found about
Yes, sir.
the permitting process?
Yep, day after, we came out in the morning and
Okay.
went down to the office and found out about it, yes.
And then when you came down to the office, they probably asked you, have you been renting this
Yes.
before?
Yes.
And you said yes.
Right.
And they said you're suspended for a year.
Yes, sir, and while we were sitting there, we had heard that you can't get a permit unless you're listed on Airbnb, which totally is contradictory, so.
Okay. So
I'm sorry about the growing pains, but yeah, there
Sure.
are some growing pains with this.
any other questions, board members? Anything else to add?
So do you only have one guest at a time? How many guests, how many
What
rooms?
we have is a three-bedroom home. We have a bathroom for them and a bathroom en suite in ours. It's a small house. We rent out the 2 rooms for $55 a night because that party is going to be sharing a bathroom. So we're not out to make a lot of money. My husband has blood clots, so he's not able to get out and work. So we're renting it out, to be fair, by party so that they know each other when they're sharing the bathroom. Was that the? Up to 4 people. I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Okay.
Yes. So we'll have college students or small family, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And you said it is owner occupied?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Do you have anything else to add?
No, I just love to figure out how to get the word permit out to these places.
Yeah, we had heard previously, and maybe this didn't happen, that now if you go to Airbnb as a new customer, that there is some sort of, you must check your local municipality to see if they have any laws related to this, but I'm not sure. We just heard that from one of the people here once, so.
Okay,
But you're right. Thank you. Anything else to add?
that's it.
Okay,
Can
thanks.
I go now?
Deliberation time. We'll just sit over there and we get. Board members, here's another case. What do we think? So person, owner occupied, went down to code, I guess their homeowners association said, hey, there's a permitting process. So when they found out, they went down the codes, they stopped the future rentals, and that's why they're here.
sounds like something that we've heard before. So, I mean,
John Michael, the date is September 23rd that they were originally?
I believe that was the cited date of the aforementioned homeowners association meeting. Our application date is September 28th.
28th, okay, very good. September 28th. So, we've kind of run the gamut of 2 months, 3 months. This would be less than 2 months if we allowed immediate rental.
yeah, and I think at some point, you know, two may be converging on the folks that, that acted immediately. There's always going to be a little bit of a time delay, you know, in terms of going to codes and then having to come to us. So there will always be some element of a time served before you get here if you do what this applicant did. But also, I mean, I think there needs to be something, and you know, the first case may have been a little bit of an anomaly. We may get the whole group, and they may want to veer toward another standard. But I think at least 2 months is probably appropriate, which would be, you know, another 18 days.
Okay.
But
Do you want to make a motion?
well, yeah. You know, and I'm still going into my head about, you know, it's just, you know, I don't know. Yeah, we didn't, we got
Because to
exactly.
be honest with you, the people that have come down here and members of the Metro Council, the reason they wrote a year in there, because they felt that there should be some punishment.
Right.
And they allowed us to come up with a less than a year formula. So right now, it looks to be in the 2 to 3 month range. But so by you saying at least 2 months for this particular case, I think that goes in the spirit of what they were trying to do. We're not the legislative body, but they clearly wanted people that were in violation of this, no matter how they knew about it or didn't know, to have some sort of punishment.
Yeah, and I agree, and like I said, and I know that the whole day's discussion is really trying to sort this through, but, you know, I do know that we've had council come and say, well, you know, it was absolutely wanted it to be a year, and we expressed how pretty dramatically unfair it felt to us for some applicants. You know, it really felt, in this one, this would be an example of someone who, you know, that as soon as they knew, they did the right thing, canceled them and everything. But I'm trying to think through, well, you know, if council had originally wanted a year and then they realized, no, that's inappropriate, but that was what they originally wanted, then what would be a 6-month punishment or a 9-month or a 3-month? And how do you start to think about the levels? And I'm perfectly okay with 2 in this situation, but I'm just trying to think a little bit ahead to gain a spectrum to say, well, what really is appropriate? Now, in this case, to me, it meets all the criteria for, you know, kind of that least amount. You know, you've got no opposition, you've got owner occupied, you've got an immediate ceasing of activity, and an attempt to do the right thing. To me, those are the criteria for the least amount of time, and so I'm just trying to figure out again.
But every case is different, and we'll get there and determine there might be a 6-month case, a 9-month case, and of course there'll be some cases where we say a year, you know? So, do you want to make a motion on this particular one? You seem to think that time served, if you will.
Well, no, that's what I was saying. I was saying no. I was actually saying no. I think 2 months is kind of is. I'm willing to someone else wants to make a motion. That's fine. But I'm of the opinion today that that kind of that minimum
2 months.
penalty is a 2-month,
Okay.
60-day, and this is
Now,
so she's less than that now.
Note that basically there is no, by statute, minimum penalty. That's just something that you kind of expressed yourself.
It is,
Yeah.
and frankly, it's you know, it's an evolution of the history of the cases that we've had, and maybe my own thinking over the course of the day, and so That,
I'll take a,
that's where I am, but like I said, if you want
I'll
to make
take
a
a-
motion of something else,
I'll make a motion that case number 159, the zoning administrator's ruling that denial of the short-term permit and waiting a year, we amend that to 2 months, starting on September 28th. So after 2 months, they're eligible to get a short-term rental permit because they have stopped future rentals. There is no opposition here. And the minute or the week that they found out about it, they came to codes. So that's why my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made, properly seconded. Discussion.
I support it. I think the entire goal here is to get people to comply with the law. And I think once we're showing our willingness to agree with that here, so I support that.
And for the record, when we have these cases that are contentious in certain neighborhoods where we might get 6, 10 people here saying, we don't think that this person is operating a good Airbnb because of this, and they're asking for less than a year, that's probably going to be harder. It really is, so.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think it's important to note, lest there be any confusion, there are a couple of letters of opposition on this case. There was even
Right.
one letter in the last
From the
case. And I would
89-year-old
just hate for anybody to hear our proceedings that
Okay.
they didn't get my letter. They didn't look at my letter.
yes,
You're, of
the-
course, just referring to there's no one present at this
here.
time.
The 89-year-old woman who grew up in Flat Rock, and his son wrote a letter, yes, from California. I did read that. Of course, anybody that writes a letter from somebody that has been in Nashville that long, I'm very interested.
Yeah, and fully respectful of the letters, but they don't, one addresses just the fact that it's a short-term rental, which we don't have, that, I certainly appreciate someone not wanting a short-term rental, but the council allows that, and so the fact that it is a short-term rental, if that's the point of opposition, then that's really not something, not to be dismissive of their feelings or whatnot, but that's not something that we have an issue or the ability to deal with. And the other one is really very much the same in terms of having this exist at all, rather than a complaint about how it was run, or if they were loud or unruly, or we're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So I think both were noted and appreciated, but
But back to the motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor. It's been made and properly seconded. Any more discussion about the particular motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, passes 4-0. John Michael.
congratulations.
So, after the 28th, you could contact them, get your proper inspections and paperwork, and thank you for being here.
And you can probably start that now, right? I mean, they can only apply on the 28th when we say
Yeah,
they're
that's-
eligible, or?
Yeah, plan to come down on Monday, the 28th, and we'll help you then. We look forward to seeing you then. The next case is number 2016-161. Terrell Starks is the appellant and owner of the property at 823 Buchanan. Is Mr. Starks present? I didn't think I saw him today. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Starks is not present. I believe the last case where we had an appellant not present, we solicited a motion from the board to put that out to the December the 1st BZA.
Yeah, let's put this out to December the 1st. Like I said, maybe they came to Sunny West. I don't know. We'll just put this on the docket on the 1st and defer it. I'll make a motion that we defer case, it's 161 till the December 1st meeting. Is there a second? Okay. Motion's been made, properly seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The case is deferred 4-0 till December 1st. John Michael.
The next case before the board is 2016-162. Alan Fagan is the appellant and owner of the property located at 2470 Abbott Martin Road in Green Hills, Council District Number 25. You've already heard from Councilmember Pulley with regard to his take on this case. The request before you is for a variance from front setback requirements. Let me note it's nice to hear a land use case here at the Board of Zoning Appeals. The intended construction is for a two-family residence. They're in the R20 zoning district, which of course does allow two-family construction. The aerial gives you a sense of the intersection there at Sugar Tree, coming away from Green Hills Mall and generally toward Estes from right to left. The site plan that's been submitted gives you a sense of the proposed setbacks from Abbott Martin, which is in the upper left-hand corner there. Is there any opposition present for case number 162? Seeing none, the appellant will have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation. Again, site visit from the staff, upper left-hand corner, the existing structure, lower right-hand corner, the view across the street from Abbott Martin, and then the view up and down Abbott Martin. Mr. Fagan.
Good afternoon, board members. Bear with me, this is the first time I've done something like this, so there may be a few stutters involved. Also, I'd ask my mother, who is one of the partners, my only partner with my business, and the realtor who helped me on the property, Brian, is available today. If I miss anything, you two, kind of let me know, okay? What I'd like to do is present you with a timeline of what's happened since June regarding me purchasing the property. And then if I may, go up and kind of pinpoint a few things just to explain some things. Thank you. So in late June, I got a phone call from my realtor, Brian, about a very good and unique property in the Green Hills area to develop. The property was listed, I believe, at $500,000 or $495,000. Long story short, I paid cash about $8,000 over list price in order to help me try to get the property, make it easier on the owners to sell as well. So about a month later, well, a few weeks later, we found out that we did get the property, which was a blessing. And at the end of July, a month after the process began, we went down to the zoning department to figure out exactly what the plat stated. What were our setbacks, stuff like that, to give us an idea of what we could develop. At that time, we met with one of the men in zoning, who told us he would let us know something within 24 hours. I did not hear anything within 48 hours, and I sent the gentleman 2 different emails, and I also left a voicemail. We also met with a lady in planning and gotten her information. I called her on the phone, and she said the plat that you had been presented with when you were here last week is what you need to plan to build upon. We see no changes that have taken place. I called the deeds department and spoke to a gentleman named Kenneth in deeds who had the same plat, no change. And on August 12th, I called the lady back in planning after that, I'm sorry, and she confirmed to me that if the deeds does not have any change to the plat and we do not either, then you need to plan to build to the plat that you were presented. So I did. I confirmed the sale of the property to myself. We closed, I believe, on August 12th. It was then for about 5 to 6 weeks later, my surveyor, Barry Cleveland, was down at zoning and had heard from Bill that there was a contextual setback in place. Again, this was 5 to 6 weeks after I had purchased the property and had no whereabouts of a contextual setback. If I had known, I would have stayed away from the property. So needless to say, I've got a $500,000 cash investment in the property that I've been very nervous about for a couple of months. Reason being, with a contextual setback in place, you can't do anything with the property. And did I miss anything going through those? Okay, just wanted to make sure. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to come up and kind of pinpoint a couple things.
John, while they're doing that, what is I know I've seen it, but what is the setback in the contextual overlay?
It's not a contextual overlay, is it? Is it just contextual street setback?
Yeah, the contextual street setback.
Right, not an overlay, just the contextual street setback. So
And-
street setbacks for areas with established development patterns,
Right.
such as this, is determined, of course, by all the other properties on the block face, as shown there.
And then what is what's required and where are they at?
In this case, what would be required with the law that was passed a little over 2.5 years ago is 84 feet 6 inches. What's requested is 50, which represents a variance of 34 feet 6 inches.
And the property, there's no, and all they're asking for is a front setback, so this has nothing to do with the fact that they want to build 2 homes.
That's correct. Whether they were choosing to build 1 or 2, it would be a setback of 84 feet 6 inches under the contextual setback, which again was put in place some number of years
And
ago.
it's 84 mainly because there are 2 houses in their block face, is that right?
It's only the 2 on that block face. I think you see
and
the 2
2
streets.
lots are completely differently shaped.
Differently shaped as shown on the zoning map here. I think the one to the immediate left is the one that's in play, and you can see it's noticeably deeper. And also, what's the right geometric word? Trapezoidal in shape somewhat. And then, of course, the way the 2 streets kind of narrow as they move toward Abbott Martin contributes to those shapes.
Thank you.
And
Yes, sir.
I have additional questions.
Sure.
Is the 84 contextual setback, so it's based, can you go to the prior slide?
Mm-hmm.
So it's based on the one to the left? and
One
then the-
structure, because it's only to the block face. So since
Oh,
those
that's
2
it.
houses stand alone between the 2 streets, it is a little bit different than the typical scenario illustrated in the ordinance, which speaks to 2 houses on either side. And in that scenario, of course, assumes a longer block face with at least the 5 houses in play. Since you only have 2 here, it's a narrower application of the same black and white law.
The 2 to the right, do you know how, well, maybe the applicant can tell us, are they set back 50 feet? Will they? Okay.
But those houses address Abbott Martin, right?
Yeah, from
Meaning they
Abbott
face
Martin,
Abbott Martin.
I'm asking about.
These 2 back here behind me,
No, I'm talking, there's one that is labeled R20 on top
The
of it.
2 on Abbott Martin
and
there,
then-
Mr. Fagan.
Yeah.
where are we talking about here?
To the right of your property on Abbott Martin.
Down here?
There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah, these are
Nope,
all-
the 2 single family.
These are all 50 feet setback.
Those are 50 feet, okay.
See, go back to your other picture.
Mr. Fagan, if I could invite you back to the microphone, not a word of what you're being said is being recorded or broadcast, and that's required by law. So if you could come back to this, you can point with your word.
So if you look at my property where the red mark is, you can see it's basically centered on the property, which in my personal opinion is where it should be. You have a front yard, you have backyard. For whatever reason, years ago, the property next to mine chose to build their home on the very back of the property. If you ride by the property, behind their house is literally 2 feet and a fence. So there's 0 backyard, and they're 85 feet back. So let's say things change, I purchase the property to the left of mine, and a contextual setback is in place with the property to the right of mine. That's the correct option, in my opinion, because that property should be brought up at a 50-foot setback versus an 85-foot setback. So if you have 2 well, first of all, you can't develop anything with a contextual setback on my property because you don't have enough room. If you did, it would be something very small, and you would have 2 properties side by side on the very back side of their land. Okay? So that's the point I was trying to make. Some of these things are tough to point out unless you drive by the property or unless you have a nice picture like this to present it with. So today I'm here to request the variance of the plat that I was given, which is a 50-foot front setback, and that's all I'm here for. Do you guys have any questions?
Anything else to add?
Do we have anything else? Mom?
If you speak, you have to come up here and talk.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I'm Linda Fagan, his mom, and I am a builder, realtor, broker in Madison, Mississippi. When he was looking at purchasing the property, I brought to his attention, you know, we might need to investigate because when you have corner lots, you just never know. And that's the reason we went to the zoning department in the first place. And the realtor was unaware of any of this. And the contextual setback is 2 years old? Because if it is, I don't understand why no one there, I even made phone calls. I called planning, before he signed the papers, I was still trying to investigate, make sure everything was okay. And everybody told me, you can build to that plat. So this is, I hate that he got himself in this position, but he intentionally did not do it. And it would be a very expensive lesson to learn when you didn't know anything about it. Okay?
Thank you. So let's close the public hearing and deliberation time. As we remember at the beginning of this meeting, Councilman Russ Pulley spoke to us about this case and the next case, and it had his support.
Well, I'll start. I don't necessarily agree that the lot is unbuildable. And I could show you all my calculations, but what he's showing here is, 80 feet deep. That's very, very generous for a home on it. However, if the new homes will line up with the homes to the right, I believe that is in the spirit with what the contextual setback, street setback is trying to achieve. So I could support it for that reason.
Yeah, I tend to agree on that one, and especially, the council member coming and saying it's best for the neighborhood. I think is important. The fact that it lines up, it's certainly not in its own block face, which is the rule, but there is the fact that there are only 2 lots, and the lots are differently shaped, and that the other house really is placed in a way that for the whole street isn't in context. I think it's a perfectly fine request.
I agree as well. I think it's very reasonable, and there's also no opposition present here today.
I did receive a copy of a letter from I assume a neighbor objecting to it.
Yeah.
It's the only opposition I'm aware of.
Well, and the letter I see, I don't know if it's the same, the letter I see on this one is, that it talks about the topographical, it basically talks about the some of the standard characteristics that we look at for a typical variance, but in the street setback contextual overlay, if I get my overlay right.
It's not an overlay.
Or
Different things.
this contextual street setback, those criteria really, we've established as a board that when you have unusual lots next to each other, that the averaging is perfectly fine, but you can't deem it completely unbuildable. And then when you, like I said, you have council and the other folks. Now this neighbor, I think, is upset about the trees, any potential trees being cut down, and I certainly appreciate that, but if it's in your buildable area, that's not really in our purview either. So, like I said, I don't have an issue with it.
Would you like to make a motion? Okay. Well, let me try to look at this. So, I would like to make a motion that we approve case 162, requesting a variance from the front setbacks in the R20 district to construct 2 single-family homes. And based on what has been submitted to us, the support of the council person, and that the houses would line up and would be still in character of the neighborhood, I make a motion that we approve this. Is there anybody?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made and second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose. Passes 4-0. Got your house. Next case.
Case number 163 is also located in Council District 25, the Green Hills neighborhood. Matt Smith, the appellant, and Hari Smith Contractors, the owners of the property, located at 3716 Benham, are requesting a variance from front setback requirements in the R10 zoning district. As you know, R10 allows for two-family construction as well as one-family construction, minimum 10,000 square foot lot size. The plan here is to construct 2 single-family residences. The aerial gives you an idea of the intersection there where Glen Echo turns right onto Benham. This is just below the Green Hills Library property and just above the practice fields from Hillsborough High School. The site plan submitted gives a general sense of the layout and the proposed front setbacks that is contemplated with this request. And from the site visit, the blank lot is shown here behind the property fence from Benham, the view across the street on Benham at the lower edge of the parking lot for the Green Hills Library, and then the view up and down Benham in the upper left-hand corner back toward 440 and on the lower right-hand corner back toward Glen Echo. Is there any opposition present for this case? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, the appellant, and or his representatives will have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation to the board with regard to this request for a variance from front setback requirements.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Smith. I work for Hari Smith Contractors. We're local home builders, been in business a little over 60 years. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today. We bought this piece of property about 8 years ago, right before the Depression hit. We had originally pursued an SP zoning for 6 units, which passed unanimously through the Planning Commission and 2 readings of the Metro Council. After that second reading, we worked with Councilman McGuire, who was the councilman then, and neighbors, and agreed to scale it back to the 4 that you see there. A and B units at the top of the screen there were permitted in May 2013 or built, along with the common entrance and common drive and some of the guest parking there as well. What we are asking for today is to match the setback of the 2 existing units to the 2 we are trying to build currently. The new setback rules would be 60 feet. We were asking for 40 feet, again, to match what is existing there. We're dealing with somewhat of a narrow lot. There's a lot of writing on there, but we've got a utility easement on each side and the back setback, and with the additional 20 feet, we fear that it's going to disrupt the flow in and out of traffic, especially in and out of those last 2 homes, getting in and out of your garage. It's going to hamper the ability to include sufficient guest and owner parking. It's going to reduce the open space each one of those homes gets in their private space. And it hurts the symmetry and attractiveness and the master plan we had. That master plan was approved, not sure it matters, but was approved by Stormwater in 2013, and that site plan was also submitted and approved, I guess I'm assuming in 2013 by Public Works when those first 2 units were permitted and built. And that's all I have. Be happy to answer any questions.
So the 2 units that are built right now, those are occupied?
Those are not. Those are for sale.
Okay, those are currently on the market.
Yes.
And so the 2 units that you plan to build, Councilman Pulley, who spoke earlier in favor of this project, said that they will also have the same HOA amongst the whole
Yes.
complex.
They're governed by, we have it as a very small one, but we think of it as a pocket community. And
And that we don't have anyone here today in opposition. You all, as you mentioned, you're company has been around for over 60 years, which is a long time in Nashville in this business. So you don't get that kind of experience without dealing with neighbors and other people. So what's been the general mood about this particular project, and how have you dealt with people? You know, you said you started at 6 and it's now 4.
The neighbors were happy with downsizing it a bit, and as far as we know, I've met quite a few of the neighbors in open houses there, and they have been pleased with the quality of the construction there. I just recently talked with the Kings. I want to say they're 3712 Benham. I apologize if that's incorrect, but they're on Benham Avenue, and called once we put up the sign in the yard, and they were supportive. They wanted to make sure we weren't adding any more units.
Yeah.
But when I told them, they actually said they'd rather have it matched than have it look.
Yeah, you know, it gets pretty contentious sometimes. Even in Green Hills, we've had cases in the last few months, not that far from the site, that a lot of people came, a lot of people wrote letters. So that's why I asked, you know, kind of how the process was. And you obviously have worked well to kind of explain what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Questions of the applicant? Do you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Let's close the public hearing. So this is 2 additional units. Mr. Smith mentioned that they will be all tied together by a common HOA. We heard from Mr. Pulley. We have no opposition present here today, and Mr. Pulley, the councilperson in the district, says that he believes that this fits into the neighborhood's symmetry, and the applicant is asking for this variance because of the narrowness of the lot, he said. So, discussion. If there's no discussion, I will make, did you have discussion? Okay, I'll make a motion. I would like to make a motion to approve case 163, 3716 Benham Avenue, requesting a variance from the front setback requirements in the R10 district to construct 2 single-family homes. And the hardship being the narrowness of the lot, and that we have good support from the councilperson, no opposition. That's the motion. Anyone second it?
Second it.
Okay. Motion's been made, properly seconded. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes 4-0. John Michael, any other announcements?
Yes,
or-
Mr. Chairman, an important announcement. One of our earlier cases, 2016-113, Mr. John Lott, has arrived.
Okay.
And if the board would like to set aside its prior motion to defer, we could do so and take up case 113, a short-term rental case with no opposition present, as virtually no one is present at this hour.
We will oh, well.
There was an opposition before here. I know there are a lot of letters of opposition in the file.
Letters and no presence was my recollection, but if there's any concern about having that wrong, then it's something we can easily put to December the 1st if the board is concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with Mr. Taylor that if there were that many letters, and I'm not sure who was here when we said he's not here or not, but.
I know you asked, and I don't remember seeing opposition, but to me, I'd rather err on the side of caution since there were substantive substantial. There was a lot. Not making a comment on the value of the letters. But
let's hear that in December, or whenever the next meeting he wants to.
And I'm
or we could
okay
announce.
with the 17th.
Okay.
But
Any other meeting, business?
No other business, just the reminder that our regularly scheduled meeting of November 17th is in place and will take place at the Sunny West Conference Room on the Fulton campus.
Back in sunny. Thank you.